songwriting. The songwriting like left.
I know.
I am so sorry.
40-something episodes taped. This has never.
I am so sorry.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Eating While Broke. I'm your host, Coline Witt, and today we have a very special guest. We have Big Steele from, you guys may know him from Gangster Chronicles, on The Black Effect.
On The Black Effect.
On The Black Effect. I met you on a panel through iHeart in The Black Effect, and I was like, Gangster Chronicles? I don't know, you know? But if you guys know anything about Gangster Chronicles, what makes Gangster Chronicles interesting is your perspective on and your mission of the show, which is you kind of get the behind the scenes of
what's going on in the streets. And it's not so much about gangsterism. We have to redefine what gangster means. To me, it's gangster that Coline is out here doing she's following her dreams. This is gangster right here. She's actually producing her own show in conjunction with Black Effect. That's gangster. So gangster to me is anyone who has overcame insurmountable odds to make something happen.
Yeah.
So those are the people we talk about, whether it's the guy that got out of prison, may have served 20 years, and now he owns a chain of car washes. That's gangster right there.
Yeah.
He's made a change in his life.
Yeah. And I like that it's also like educational, and you showcase the impacts of like what decisions were made that led to what certain outcomes without glorifying like a negative lifestyle. And exactly. I think when you hear the term Gangster Chronicles, you know, and I'm only addressing it right now, because I want our listeners to like really understand like your mission and what your show is about if they haven't already checked it out. But in the interim, I would love to know what you are cooking us on Eating While Broke.
Well, right now, you guys are going to get treated to Big Steele Nachos.
Big Steele Nachos. I like that.
This is something I sort of made up when I was in college, because when you're in college, you don't have that much money, but you want to eat good. So I think Taco Bell might have impeded on my trademark on my IP when they started doing Digital Locos tacos and all that stuff. Because I like using Doritos. It just gave it that extra flavor, right? Yeah. And plus, I didn't have the money to go out and buy a whole bunch of seasoning. So it's almost like Doritos gave you your flavor, right? Yeah. And then, you know, I started adding stuff on to the dishes as time went along. And, you know, today we're going to be using some ground turkey versus beef. Yeah. You know, you can do this with chicken as well. Or if you're vegan, you can go out and get that, what's the type of meat that they have, the false meat?
And Beyond Meat or like...
Yeah, Beyond Meat or whatever else like that, you know, health conscious. So you ready to kick it off? Yeah,
let's kick it off. Start us off. Right. What are the ingredients before?
Right here, we have some evaporated milk. Now, you can use good old milk out your refrigerator. I choose to use evaporated milk because it makes the cheese come out creamier. I mix that in with the cheese when I'm milking it. Or you can just go get a bag of shredded cheese if that's what you want to. And it's going to melt on its own when you put some of the hot ingredients on there. It's whatever you want. We have jalapenos. We have sour cream. We have refried beans. You know, the whole Monty. And this right here is Velveeta right here. Again, it doesn't have to be Velveeta. You can go out and use your own alternatives. But first, what we're going to start...
And then you have the Cool Ranch chips.
The Cool Ranch chips.
Cool
so we have
Ranch.
Cool Ranch today.
Okay.
Cool Ranch Doritos right here.
What are you going to season the meat with, though?
It's right here, good old salt and pepper.
Salt and pepper, okay.
Good old salt and pepper, because you remember, usually, now you can do your meat with the taco sauce too. You know,
get the taco seasoning.
The taco seasoning, something like that. You can do that, but I didn't do that today for the sake of time.
Okay.
And just, you know, again, we are dining while broke. The average student may not have that extra, you know, $2.99 to go out and get the thing. So first, what we're going to do, we're using this ground up turkey. We're going to put that in here first.
Yep, and the pot's already hot.
And it's already hot, you know. We'll get this together because you want the meat to be really, you don't want it to be in clumps, you know what I mean? You want it to spread out.
Yep.
Get this right here. Once I chop this up, we get started on getting our cheese together.
Do you want me? Let me go ahead and help you. I'll open the cheese.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, you could be my assistant.
I'll be your assistant.
I'm using, my daughter is usually my assistant. Well, you know, actually she's gotten to the point where she's doing the whole thing. I usually just give her directions and I'll stand back and kind of look. And she said, no, Dad, you too critical.
Oh, so this is my first time for all you listeners that I've actually ever used Velveeta cheese. I actually did not know if this was in the refrigerated section or not, and it's actually not in the refrigerated section.
Nope, you can find that right on the shelf.
So I put the Velveeta cheese on the chopping block.
On the cutting board, and I'm going to cut this up right now, right there. I'm not going to do that to you.
Yeah, so my envisioning of Velveeta cheese was like this melted, gooey thing, but I guess that's the end result of what you're about to do with the Velveeta cheese.
Yes, I am. Can we turn this up somewhere here?
Yeah, so your burner for this is this one. Yeah, you're right. So you can turn it up.
You want to turn it up just a little bit so we can get some heat on there. We're going to put some salt and pepper on there. You know, you got to have some seasoning.
Yeah, of course.
And nothing beats good old-fashioned salt and pepper.
I've had chefs on the show, and I used to think salt was something that seasons things, but he had told us that salt is what brings out the flavor.
Yeah, salt is what actually brings out the flavor. Like, if you're cooking steak at home, just another side note, I see people going to all of these different little seasonings and stuff. The best seasoning for steak is good old salt and pepper.
Yeah. I'm learning, because I'm definitely one of those people that see the steak seasoning sauce, and I dump the steak in it, massage it, and go marinate, baby.
All right. Now, while this is cooking.
Okay. While this is cooking.
Chop up our Velveeta right here. You want to chop this up right here. Mm-hmm. Get this right here. We don't need a whole bunch of this. We probably have a pack of this left over, and that's for when you want, you know, some more Bigg Steele Nachos or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Once you start making them, whatever your name is, they'll be your version of nachos. Like when you make them, you can call them Coline's nachos.
Coline's nachos. I'm going to keep the Steele nachos. I like it. Now, Velveeta cheese, is that real cheese?
Yes, it is real cheese.
Well, how come it wasn't in the refrigerated section?
Well, that's something you're going to have to call and ask Kraft and these other companies. I don't know how they do it, but I just know it's nice and convenient.
Okay.
And you get like I'm going to show you the purpose of the milk because you get a nice little cream texture.
Here's your milk.
You know, you want to cut this.
I'm trying to be an assistant.
Oh, you're doing a great job.
Now I'm going to cut.
We want to have this, get our cheese together.
Okay, so for all y'all listeners, he's chopping up the Velveeta cheese into like little triangles.
Yeah, it is, and that's the way, you know, you pour your milk in, right?
So you pour the milk into the pot?
Yeah, right in here. You see it's right there? Pouring this in there, and we start adding this into there, right? And you know, with the cheese, you want to stir as it goes along, right? You want to stir this, keep stirring because, and you want to do this in the preferably a non-stick pot because it can be something else to try to clean up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is. It sticks to the pan, right? Sticks to the pan.
Okay, so you got the milk. You have the carnation milk with the Velveeta cheese, and then you're going to stir it.
Yeah, I'm going to stir it and add more cheese as I go along. I may even need it even cheesier, you know? I'm going to get something like this. I'm going to turn this up a little bit. Where is this at? Right here?
I think it's this one.
This one right here?
You want to turn it up to like 5?
Turn it up to like a little bit. Like, let's put some heat on it.
Oh, 8.
Right there, yeah.
Okay,
we don't
okay.
Be here all day waiting for
now,
some cheese to cook.
Are we going to bring this to a boil, or we're just trying to see it all mesh together?
We're just trying to see it all meshed together.
Okay.
Like, you know, when it goes to a little bit, it won't really boil. It won't really come to a boil like that, but you want to get it warm enough to where it melts the cheese. You know what I mean? We want to have a nice, smooth,
creamy
we want to
cheese.
have a nice, smooth, you don't want it with lumps in it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We want to eat some nachos with big lumps in it, you know?
Now, what do you say to those people that that use the nacho cheese that's in the jar? Is that the same, or?
They can use that too. It's whatever, whatever fits you. If you find some nice nacho cheese that you're a fan of that comes in a jar or whatever, you can use that too, even better, even quicker.
Okay.
Because
but you came up with the Velveeta cheese.
Yeah, I came up with the Velveeta cheese. I just thought it added a different level to it, you know what I mean? Like I even put a little bit of pepper in mine. I don't put no salt because cheese already has enough sodium in it to where you don't want to make it too salty, you know?
Yeah.
You don't want to have it to where it's too salty or whatever. You want to do this and have it to where it's not stuck together. And then another thing we want to start warming up too next, we'll start while all this is getting together, we start getting our refried beans together.
Oh, okay.
Because you want these to have a nice little texture to them, because you know refried beans are normally stiff, right? You want to get them to where they're kind of like, you know, smooth. Not too stiff, but smooth, you know? So we're going to put these in here. You see how these come out?
Yeah,
Like
it looks
that
like
right
a
there.
can of cat food.
Yeah, it looks like a can of cat food, but it's not going to look that way by the time I'm finished. Well, you got to show love to your food.
Are you
know?
laughing behind your mask?
Hmm?
I think Jared's laughing behind the mask. Because I refer to it as a can of cat food.
Well, it's not going to taste like no cat food when I'm done with it. So you got to put a lot of love into your cooking.
Do you need this burner turned up too? A little bit?
Yeah, we can. We can turn it up a little bit.
So you don't have to add anything to the refried beans. You just have to heat it.
You just got to heat them up. You
Okay.
just got to heat them up. And that's more so to get a little bit smooth, because you see how it came out the can. Who would want to eat that out the can like that?
No, definitely. No, not
And you
anything
see,
that looks like cat food.
it has just enough fluid already to where you don't have to add anything.
Look at that.
You know, it's going to get nice and smooth.
I don't know enough about beans. I always get nervous cooking with beans because I don't really know if it's like kind of how you're doing it, where you can heat it and it becomes something you can eat.
Yeah, it is, and you're not going to even be able to tell they was out of a can. Let me get a napkin over here. Keep your work area clean. You know, you don't want to have a lot of stuff going on. You want to keep your work area clean and be safe. We are not responsible for anybody out there that burns their fingers while they're doing this. And you want to make sure, whether you're using turkey, I know me, if I'm using turkey or ground beef, I want this to be nice and brown when I get it. You know what I mean? I want it to be nice and brown so it can have that flavor. And we're using turkey today, ground turkey.
Yeah.
For those health conscious people out there, you know, that want to get nice and swole like me and in ultimate shape like me and Coline is. I'm just joking. I need to lose a good 30 pounds.
You know what? It's funny. Whenever you're in that 20-pound, 30-pound range, it's like a part of my brain when I'm trying to lose anything that's under 20 pounds. It's like, I'll get to it eventually, you know? But I guess if it was like 50 or 100 pounds, I feel like there would be a little bit more urgency on losing it.
Yeah, it is. I got to give a shout out to my wife. She loses weight and stays in shape better than anybody else I know. She's a pescatarian, which means she only eats fish. See, look, I'm spilling stuff. See, look, this can get messy.
Do you need more cheese?
Yeah, I'm gonna put some more cheese in there.
Okay.
And that's the thing. You want to put, you don't want to start off with too much, but you want to put just enough so you can add more into it to your liking. Now I want this a little bit thicker, right? So I'm going to add some more cheese to this
Here,
right here.
I'll cut up your cheese.
Yeah, cut me some cheese up right there. See, look, Coline is pulling double duty today as the chef to Big, you know, as assistant to Chef Big Steele.
Just so
a little bit more.
Just so you know, I actually don't co-help. This is my first time, so I hope you like these co-chef services that you're getting.
They're perfect. It's going to turn out, that way you get some credit on the Big Steele Nachos today.
You know, there we go. Tell your daughter to move over. Watch out now. You got another assistant on the scene. Do you need more cheese?
Yeah, let me get some more.
Oh, wow,
And
your
we-
cheese looks cheesy.
Yeah, we could turn this down now. Now that we got this is it right here. Turn that down right here. Put this in there.
So we put you on a timer, so you have like 60 seconds left. I'm trying to see if you can make Steele's Nachos in under 10 minutes.
60 seconds left. I don't
You
know.
got 60 seconds. If he was on a cooking
Cooking
show,
show, I would lose.
you think you would lose?
I wouldn't. You know what? I want them to be right.
Okay.
I want them to taste good. I don't want you to look at them and they just look good. Cause see, some of that stuff on these shows look good, but it tastes nasty. You ever seen a plate of food that's plated and they got the nice little garnishings and everything around it, but you eat it and you like, man, what is this, man?
Yes.
Tastes like some stuff they scraped from the bottom of the pot or something.
Yes.
No, when I cook, when I cook, actually, we could turn this off right now. We just turn this in because we got enough heat going on in there right now.
Heat on which one? The meat?
Yeah, no, on this right here.
You want to turn it off?
Yeah, we can turn this off
Okay,
right here.
perfect.
We good. We just go turn it off and stir.
Okay. And then do you want me to stir the beans?
Yeah, please. You can stir the beans. That'll make us even healthier.
I don't know if it gets me off camera, but I'm sure y'all got that all right. Okay, beans look stir ready.
So we just want to make sure those are nice and warm.
Now,
'cause
do you typically add water to the beans, or do you let them be this thick?
You know what? I'd like to add a little bit of water. So what we could do today is I actually have some water right here that
Look,
I,
it's
that
ready.
I
Stay
didn't drink
ready.
out of. That a little bit, and we want to add just a little bit, you know, like we add
Okay.
a little bit. So like you stir as I pour.
Oh, okay. Trying. Okay, that's good, I think.
No, that's good.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Okay, I'm learning the bean game now.
Because it gets them a little bit smoother. That way, when you're
Yeah.
putting them on the nachos, they're not all just clumped up in one place. And one dude eat a nacho, be like, man, I got all beans on here. I ain't getting no meat hardly. You want to make sure your stuff. You see how the cheese is smooth now? See how the cheese is smooth now?
Cheese looks like nacho
And
cheese.
see, we are actually now, what we do is we can actually start plating our nachos.
Okay. Oh, okay. I get it.
I got it. And I can do that if you want to.
What? Plate the nachos?
Yeah, where's our plate at for our nachos? What plate are we using? We can use this
These.
one right here.
Well, I didn't know if you were going to pour it
Oh, you
into
know
the
what?
bowl and do the whole nacho thing, or if you want to do like...
Well, you know what? Let's put them on a plate. That way they're evened out. You know what I mean? That way they're evened out. We could plate them. We could do.
You mind if I touch
Yeah,
your...
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so we're going
And
to...
everybody can eat off of there.
Okay.
And of course, just for
No, let's do both.
Oh, you want to do? So you want to do?
That's
two
how
plates
we
of
do
nachos.
it. That's how we do it on our show.
Okay, cool, perfect.
Okay, I got
Well,
my
let's get
little
some
nachos.
Let's get some more chips on there.
On
Why
which
you
one?
being-
Yours?
On both of them, like spread them out.
You think we're going to eat all these
You
chips?
trying to save nachos? No, we might have some of the guests
crew,
in here
the
that the
crew.
crew may want to eat some. You know what I mean?
All right. So we got a good looking nacho plate. Good. All right. So now what do we add next?
All right, so we go turn these off right now. We're done with these right here.
All right.
The first thing we're going to add right now, is our beans.
Oh, okay.
We're going to add beans, then we're going to add our cheese, then we're going to add everything else on top of it because those are our two hottest things, right?
But when do you add the meat then?
I got you. Follow
Okay.
me.
Okay. Let me sit back and watch some magic happen.
Follow me.
All right. So
Follow
the cooking
me.
part's done, everybody.
The cooking part is done and everything is turned off. I want to make sure, but these are still hot. Again, everybody at home in the studio, audience, be careful. I don't want to hear about nobody's fingers getting burnt off.
Okay.
We want to do this. We want to have it to where it's like
A saucy type.
a nice and saucy type of thing right here, right there.
All right.
You want to be kind of like to where you spread them around a little bit, to where you spread them around to where it's like, because you want to taste hopefully a little bit of everything in every bite, right? And we just put it like that right there. Because see, what I usually do is toss them nachos up so it could be kind of like
All mixed in together?
all mixed in kind of together.
Oh, like you do it in a bag or something?
Yeah, you can do it with your hands, however you do,
Oh,
because
okay,
these gonna be your nachos. So you could do however you want to, but I wouldn't want nobody putting their hands in my nachos.
No.
Unless
Just
they got
pick
them
your
good.
one chip and exit the plate. Okay?
Exactly.
That's the name of the game when you share nachos, right? You don't be all around your plate. I do that if there's guac on there, though. I'll reach over.
You know, and we could have some, you could definitely have some guacamole.
Well, this eating wall broke, so I get it.
Yeah, because everybody may not be able to afford that. You know, guacamole is sometimes can be expensive, depending on the season it's in. So we got enough of that right now.
Yeah, perfect. So
This is just for show.
The next thing, the cheese?
The next thing we're doing is the cheese right here, right? Then you pour the meat on after that. Put the meat on after that right there. See how smooth that is right there?
Wow.
See how smooth that is right there?
That looks great.
You pour it on there and you know, you want to have a little bit everywhere, nice and cheesy, you know? Nice and cheesy. You want to put this on there. See, since Colleen's the host, I'm going to hook it up and make sure she got cheese in every sector, in every crevice.
Well, you know what? I'm going to be the host asking you a lot of questions in a little bit. So hopefully my cheese won't get too cold.
Then we start off with the meat. Start with the meat in there. We want this to be nice and green,
Yeah.
you know, to where you don't have too bigger clumps.
This looks really good.
Oh, it's gonna be the bomb.
I'm one of those people that I go to Taco Bell. Well, I used to go to Taco Bell a lot, and my order was always the nachos Bel Grande.
And these
That was like my go-to.
these killing the Nexus by Bel Grande. It's kind of like a you can make these as much as you want to. You can put the guacamole on there. You can put the sour cream. And see, now, what we doing right now, we got some of these right there. We got some salsa. We always want to make sure.
Oh, I opened it a little bit. Just
Oh, it's cool. Just want
No,
to make sure.
I mean, it's going to spill out when you shake it.
No, that's why I got my hand over the top.
Okay.
So you put you some.
Oh, this looks legit, man.
Oh yeah, we're not playing no games in here today.
So how often would you eat this?
You know what? The last time I had these was maybe probably a month and a half ago. It's not something I eat every day because this it's good, but it's something that can kind of get you
Bigger?
Oh yeah, you can gain weight eating this. You definitely go gain some weight. You eat nachos every day, especially nachos like this. With
I
all
mean,
the
this
cheese
thing
and
looks
everything.
beautiful with the red. Okay, so we added the salsa. The jalapenos are optional.
Yeah, the jalapenos are optional.
I'm going to skip the jalapenos.
See, she's gonna skip the jalapenos. I'm gonna put a couple of them on there. And we got a fork right here. I don't want a whole bunch of them.
Mhm.
I don't want a whole bunch of them. Hold on, I almost forgot about this right here. The trusty sour cream. You know, sour cream is thick.
Mhm.
And just for show purposes,
Yeah.
I'm gonna put you some clumps around there. You can
Put
always
some
dip.
clumps, yeah.
I'm gonna put you some clumps
Yo,
around
this
them.
smells and looks way better than my Nachos Bel Grande. On this show, I have so many guests be like, I want you to try it first. I'm like, no, we
See,
try it
look,
together.
I found me a perfect one with a nice combination of salsa, cheese, and everything else.
First of all, this too good. Outstanding. First of all, I gotta get it with the cheese on it. This is outstanding.
If you want me to, I can always. Want some more cheese?
Hell yeah.
You want more cheese?
Hell yeah. So let me just tell you, listeners, about this cheese. I've had the nacho cheese in a can. Definitely nasty compared to this cheese. I've never had Velveeta cheese. I've never even thought to mix it with carnation milk, but this cheese is amazing.
That's the key to it, the carnation milk.
The flavor is absolutely nuts. I wish I could take this home without it like getting the chips soggy.
Well, you know what? Usually, what we would do is I would get a big, like a kind of platter tray, spread the nachos across there, and I would put the beans on there, and I would wear plastic gloves at home when I cook, and I would kind of just, you don't want to tear the nachos up, but you would kind of just, to where so every bite that you get is like
an experience.
An experience. You got all these different flavors of explosion of flavors in here. And see, the thing is,
I can't stress how amazing these nachos are. Like, Jared, I wish you'd come over here and eat some of this, Drew. Katie.
well, we have plenty for them afterwards. We have plenty for them afterwards.
This is amazing. All right, my last bite, and then I can.
They're addictive. And that's why you don't eat these every day, because you'll mess around. It's kind of like, I almost made my fried deviled eggs.
What? So let me just tell you a little backstory. So Norm and I have been trying to tape with each other for months. Norm, come on, we're trying to work our schedules together. Then I was like, Norm, what do you want to make? His first option for me, everybody, was meatloaf. And he was like, have you ever had meatloaf? I'm like, if I did, I don't think I ever remembered the experience, but I didn't want meatloaf. And I was like, I'm sure, Norm, you have something else. He was like, oh, what about these nachos? And I was like, that's a great idea. But now, while we're here, you offer me deviled eggs.
Yeah, fried deviled eggs.
I've never had that.
It's like, those are pretty much like the traditional deviled eggs, except you got a twist on them. You're cutting that egg whites in half, cutting them in half, you put the yolk in a bowl, right? When it's done, when it's cooked, right? You take those halves, you dip them in a little bit of flour, then you dip them in some egg white, then you put them in the breadcrumbs. You put them in a skillet deep fryer, hopefully with a little, one of the little scoops, put them in there, maybe 10 seconds, take them out, let them dry on, paper towels, napkins, absorb the oil. Then, like traditional deviled eggs, you put the eggs in the basket, whip them up, put some Miracle Whip in there, some sweet relish, nice sweet and tangy relish, a little bit of, cayenne, just a little taste of cayenne pepper, just so it has that little bite to it. Then you want to get the bacon. But you want a specific kind of bacon. You want the bacon that has like the sweet bacon, like the hickory with the hickory taste, or you could you can put a little bit of syrup on it when you're cooking the bacon, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole nother story, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when you come back, fried deviled eggs will be the option.
I definitely will hook that up. Those take long. You can't be putting me under no stipulations with that, though, Coline.
No, these nachos are amazing, but I really want to know your backstory on how you got to Gangster Chronicles and where you're at today. Now,
Okay.
you said you were in college when you were eating these.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me like a little bit about your background. Like,
Okay.
what were you doing in college?
Well, I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a guy like a lot of other athletes, especially in that era, to where I didn't have the academic portion together out of high school. So a lot of opportunities I had coming out of high school, I couldn't take advantage of because I didn't have the grades. So I wound up coming out here to Long Beach City College. It was the choice between either me coming here to attend school or going to Coffeyville in Kansas.
Okay.
And they actually had scholarships in Coffeyville, Kansas, dorms and everything. But anybody that knows about Coffeyville, Kansas knows it's not exactly the sexiest destination on the planet.
Yeah.
So I chose to come out here to California. I came out here when I was 17 years old. Thanks to Coach Will Shaw, good mentor of mine, still the man that's in my life today. Me and his son are best friends. So I played football at Long Beach City College. From there, I got a scholarship to New Mexico State University. I met my wife while I was at Long Beach City College, so I wound up toying around playing professional football in the CFL and the Arena Football League for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
That really wasn't my thing. So I came back home, you know, I had a son already, so I wanted to be in my son's life. And it's not like I was making millions of dollars playing arena football. Mm-hmm. So I had to make a choice. I came home and started kind of integrating into the real world. Mm-hmm. Always had a love for music. Mm-hmm. You know, my family is full of musicians, right? So I always had this love for music. So I wound up somehow through one of my friends, Mario Higuereta, I wound up getting involved in the music business. Mm-hmm. Distribution at first. We were going out to some conventions, you know, conventions that they had back then, such as Jack the Rapper and all this different stuff. And then we wound up going out to a convention called Middle. That's where all the distributors meet up worldwide. From there, I met one of my, like the guy that would become a mentor to me in the music industry, Dom Rampello. He was from the UK. Wound up doing a lot of business with them. So I started distributing a lot of records here from the United States to overseas. Mm-hmm. Our company did $2 million our first year.
Wow.
We did.
And when you say our company, like your own company?
Yeah, we had our own distributor.
Okay.
We had our own distributor, and we were distributing albums. We were distributing the Dog Pounds albums through my boy Big A. Shout out to my partner Big A. Mm-hmm. We were doing Dash, Dillinger, Corrupt, all those guys overseas.
Dang, I haven't heard Corrupt's name in so long.
But then what happened was we had this strange little thing to where the record company started kind of tripping on people selling what was called mixtapes. Mm-hmm. That's when you had the whole thing that went down with DJ Drama. And even though we were selling legal content, you know, we wasn't bootlegging nothing. These were these artists' albums. The record companies was like, man, we not getting our cut off that shit. So they start shutting everything down.
So wait, how are you able to get the record without the label? You were selling legal records, but you were getting the material from the artist without
from the artist.
But without the label's involvement.
Without the label's involvement. You know, the average artist only is getting 25 cents a CD, so they got to try to find ways outside of touring to make money. So we were doing this stuff, and I was doing some other people that were independent too. Those weren't the problem. The stuff that was selling a bunch of records was the stuff that came from the record companies. Mm-hmm. So I kind of saw the writing on the wall with that. But through me starting to release more material that was kind of proprietary to me, I was clearing a sample one day, and I called this company, Minder Music. Hey, we want to get this sample cleared. You know, we're going to pay to get this sample cleared. They started asking a bunch of questions like, well, who is the artist? Who is this? Who wrote this? Who wrote that? And I was like, well, I did this and I did that. So they wound up meeting with me in LA, and we wound up doing a publishing deal.
Wow.
Because I was a writer. And
that was your first publishing deal?
Yeah, so I did wound up doing a publishing deal with them. On top of that, they told me some goals that they had as far as expanding into the United States, because this company had a huge catalog. They had like the regional rights to like the Fall, some of the Beatles catalog. So they had, you know, the Gap Band. They had a lot of catalog, right? So what wound up happening is from there they said, hey, Norm, we want to open up an office here in the States. Mm-hmm. Would you run that office?
But at this point, you're assigned to them as almost like an artist, right? As a publishing
as a writer, yeah.
As a writer.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then to backtrack just a little bit, can you break down what a publishing deal looks like to just the average listener?
Well, a publishing deal is someone, they come to you, it could be you. You can come to someone and say, hey, I want to participate in your publishing rights. I'm going to advance you a certain amount of money based on what I think it is you're worth. They may say, okay, I'm going to give you $250,000 and we're going to share in 20%. We're going to do a co-pub deal, which means me and you going straight down the middle. You get 25% and I get 25%.
Okay.
You get 50%, I get 50%. And in turn, they're usually people that are able to take your music to different places to work those assets. So I wound up working with them for maybe 6 years. I wound up becoming the head of urban music. The first record that we actually got placed wound up going platinum. It was Ice Cream Paint Job. Shout out to my little partner, 2 months. That was the first producer I ever signed. He wound up going platinum out the gate. But I started having issues with the publishing company because I brought some artists in there that I felt could have been really revolutionized music. I brought Kendrick Lamar in when he was just going by K-Dot. They said no. I bought actually all the TDE in there. They told me no. So I kind of was feeling some kind of way about that because I said, well, you give me this job and I'm bringing you people.
You're not giving me the support to run it.
I pretty much had a pen with no ink.
Yeah.
They let me do too much because that deal was cheap in comparison. And TDE wasn't asking for a whole lot of money at that time, not comparing to what you would have got.
Yeah.
Had we did that deal, we would all probably be sitting on top of the hill somewhere.
Yeah. So you ended up walking.
I ended up walking, and I was young back then and kind of arrogant. If I had to do all over again, I would have handled it a little differently. But I wound up walking away.
Now, when you say arrogant, do you feel like your pride took over and you were like, I can make money on my own, so I'm good?
It was one of those things, and I had a lot of people at that time offer me jobs in other houses. Like I had Cobalt offer me a job. I had Bug Music offer me a job. I had different publishing companies offer me a job because everybody wants the black guy that's connected to the streets.
Yeah.
They want the black guy that can go to anybody's studio session and just kind of pop up. And they were willing to support. But what I didn't know is you're only good for one of those other jobs when you're working the other job. Once you're gone, they don't know if you got fired. They don't know what it is. They're not trying to investigate why. So all those same people that was blowing up my phone, 5-6 months earlier, they wasn't around no more. So I had to figure out some stuff. So what I started doing is my friend at that time, Glasses Malone, he was hot as fish grease in the streets. Like he was hot. He was in games camp at the time. He was running around the Black Wall Street camp. So, and me and him were always friends. I started helping him more and more because he was new. He was an incredible rapper, but he didn't know the songwriting. So Glasses had this situation. He was running around with Black Wall Street with Game and them, and he became the hottest guy in the streets. Like he had a song called 300 that went crazy on the radio. And at that time, his brother Pooh was managing him. And he was signed to Sony. He had signed $1 million deal with Sony Music.
Wow.
And Sony one day decided that they were getting rid of their urban department. He had an album that was already completely done. Finished, Wyclef Jean, whole bunch of different people on there, Manny Fresh on the production, DJ Toon. We had a real album. So in the process of the label deciding they was getting rid of the urban music department, he became a free agent. They let him walk away with the money and the album.
What?
So there was a lot of people out calling. So Mac 10 from Who Bangin' Records, he wanted to sign Glasses, but he wanted to do it through Cash Money Records. And we thought, we got somebody from the West still kind of in the picture versus us just dealing directly with Cash Money. So we did that deal, and it turned out good. Birdman paid everything that Birdman and Mac took care of us. It wasn't none of the discrepancies that you hear about with the other artists or whatever.
And you guys did you own most of your publishing, or did you have to share it with
Glasses always owned this Punch Publishing. I made sure that we didn't do those deals unless they was coming with a bunch of money. So the cool part about it is we wound up signing the Cash Money. Now, remember I told you earlier about Glasses and his record-making ability. One of the greatest rappers of the world at that time. But song structure-wise, he has dope songs, but you trying to, hit on some Drake shit. You ain't trying to come out and just have some shit that's right here. You want to go right here. So he got a lot better at what it was he was doing, and the situation with Cash Money didn't quite work out because they were talking about pushing the album back. And at that time, Glasses didn't know no better. None of us knew any better. We probably should have just did what they asked us to and pushed the record back. Glasses was like, no, I want my record to come out. I want to release. So we wound up getting a release from Cash Money and wound up releasing the album through somebody else. Even though it was technically still through Cash Money, it wasn't through Universal anymore, it was through somebody else. So that album did what it did. I think we might have wound up doing 50,000 units, which is not that much, for the caliber of artist he is. But that kind of took us through like this soul searching period to where we really start locking in the studio. Like Glasses went and learned how to play the bass guitar. He learned how to play the guitar. He really got in his music, started playing drums.
Would you say at that point you guys do you think you hit like a kind of rock bottom or was it like a reality check? Because it sounds like you guys were like so confident, and in the record, you went against Cash Money's decision, and then the reality was the record didn't do as well as
the record didn't do as well. When if we would have listened to Baby and Mag 10, we'd have been fine.
And do you think at that point it was a timing thing, or do you think it was like the record just wasn't there, or maybe you went with the wrong single?
Well, the thing was, we didn't have no records there. We was trying to guess. It's like, we had dope records. Don't get me wrong, these records were incredible, but they wasn't records that fit in Glasses' lane. Like, Glasses was still trying to figure out who he was as an artist.
Okay.
Like, so, when you're looking at everybody else that's popping, when you look at Tune, which is Wayne, what works for Wayne ain't gonna necessarily work for Glasses. So,
and Wayne had people look at Wayne now, but Wayne's been around for such a long time.
He was,
and he went through an evolution process as an artist himself.
Exactly, and Wayne was going stupid at that time. It's like, I remember we went to Vegas for the Lollipop video, and I remember Birdman just standing on the side of a bus saying, "Yeah, Wayne sold 1 million copies this week," and I was just like, "God damn." This dude is actually the baddest motherfucker on the planet right now. And Wayne is just such a cool motherfucker. He's not how we in here talking right now, that's how Wayne is. He's going to come by and introduce himself to you and shake your hand, introduce himself. He's going to shake everybody in your hand, and he's going to treat everybody from the janitor to the manager of the place the same way.
I used to have a magazine, and I had the opportunity to, Lil Wayne, I think, dropped the Lollipop record around that time. And I remember I worked a lot with Universal Records, but I do remember it being like, if you wanted to interview Wayne, it was completely up to Wayne. Like, they had no control over anything that camp did. It was just kind of like they were so thankful to even be able to distribute. They just didn't mess with the process. But I could not get Wayne unless I had a Wayne direct contact at the time. It was like you couldn't go through a label to book an interview with Wayne.
No, Tune is doing what Tune want to do. Wayne is the man. You know what I mean?
It wasn't even an option. They were just like, we don't have access.
Because it's not like he needs the cover of your magazine. It's not like he needs you to play a song on the radio. If you look at Wayne's influence today on the music industry, you have, what's the kid's name? The kid from Philly's name.
Will?
No, they talk about younger rappers now. What's my guy's name?
First of all, I don't even listen to mumble rappers. I call them mumble rappers.
See,
or whatever.
We ain't gonna start dissing nobody.
We're not dissing, but I do not mess with young.
The guy that had that song, short guy, he has a big record. But anyway, if you look at everybody,
Plies?
Not Plies. The kid's from Philly, I think. If you look at everybody from Young Thug to the other rappers today, everybody has Wayne's influence written all over him.
But Wayne is I would say that, but Wayne is, I don't even consider him a rapper. He is a full stream. He's almost on the level of her right now, or Gabby Wilson, because he really is all encompassing art music. Like he like plays different instruments. Like he's his own body of art.
Yeah, the only guy I know that can even compare to him, kind of like on the level of artistry he's on, is probably Kendrick. And Kendrick is a guy I've known since he was 16 years old, and I saw him go through his evolution. But he just figured it out hell of early. Like, I remember one day he was in the studio when he made that transition. He was over at Top Dog Studio in Carson. They had a studio behind the house that was just in the back, and I remember him saying one day, like, because he went through a period where he was sounding just like Wayne for a minute. He was releasing mixtapes, and he sounded just like Wayne. Then he said one day, like, you know what? I'm just gonna be Kendrick. Like, I'm gonna be who I am, and his music just kind of changed. And he was always incredible, but then you saw him just kind of just go.
And be himself.
It's just like it's some special people. So being around these special people, Glasses said, man, I want to be one of these special people. So he really just evolved like on this level. And he has a level of truth and honesty to his records that may piss some people off. Like when we did the Tupac Must Die record, for those that really didn't listen to the record, there was a lot of people pissed off about that record. They were
just
really
off
mad.
the name.
Just off the name alone, but what Glasses realized is that it has to be more than just a song and a story, or nobody's gonna look at it, listen to it. Nobody's gonna pay attention to the video, nobody's gonna look at it. So even if you look at his last single, Kanye shouldn't have married that bitch, pardon the language. But he knew that would catch people's attention.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though it wasn't nothing there really degrading off of Kim or whatever, it was just a song about a scandalous ass girl. And he titled it Kanye. So he figured out the whole thing. Like if Glasses wasn't a rapper, I think in another life he would probably be one of the biggest marketing guys in the country right now.
It sounds like he's good at marketing. So at this point, you're managing Glasses. All right. So then, how do we get all the way? I'm trying to get to where you're at today with Gangster.
Okay. This is all in the story. So me managing Glasses and figuring out who he is as a man, he's an opinionated dude, and he's a contrarian as well. Anything you have to say, he's going to have an argument against it, or maybe for it, but he's going to really, and he's going to debate you in an intellectual capacity. We don't deal with emotion. We just going to tell you the truth straight out. This is what it is, right? So with that being said, I started really getting big into talk radio. I was listening to a lot of talk radio, you know, because when you work in the music industry, you don't want to hear music all day. You love music, but you just want to get away from that shit. So I started listening to a lot of different people, and I said, Glasses, I heard this thing people are doing called a podcast, and at this time, there were probably only like 30 or 40 people doing podcasts. You figure this is maybe 2018.
Okay.
And we're like, man, so we went and talked to our boy Ski over at
DJ Ski?
Yeah, DJ Ski.
Oh, DJ Ski, I ain't heard that name in so long.
Yeah, we want to holler at Ski because Ski had a company, still has a company called, he has this little app that he has, right? So we were up there recording Glasses podcast.
Yeah.
Of course, Glasses didn't do it consistently. We would do 1 or 2 episodes, then I'd come show up to his loft to do it, and he wouldn't be there. Just wait for me, bro. I'll be there in 30 minutes. 30 minutes turned to 2 hours. You know how you use Glasses. But anyway,
I'm dealing with Glasses right now. I'm hoping we can lock him in.
He's gonna come in. He'll be here. Trust me. So we go through this thing where we're doing these podcasts, right? And Glasses podcast it was called The Unpopular Opinion. It actually started catching people, but then we went on this hiatus with it. Then that's when I said, you know what, fuck this. I went full on in the podcast, and I decided to start Digital Soapbox Media. At that time, I didn't really want to do a podcast. I had plans on doing one, but I wanted to get this off the ground. I was like, I figured out the business model of it, right? So I had a friend that worked at CBS. He said, send me an air check tape. So I sent him Glasses show. He loved it. So now we got this deal with CBS at the time, which is probably the worst deal in the history of podcasts. And it was like, I think we was getting something like 30%. They was paying for the studio time on certain shows, right? But on other shows they didn't pick up, I had to cover that studio time, right? So I had these shows, and I had an idea a year earlier about a show called Gangster Chronicles. I said, dude, I want to do a show about people. I wanted it to be a crime show, but I wanted to show the opposite effect of it. I just didn't want to be out there like everybody else, kind of like glorifying some shit because it looks cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to tell the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and show that it is a light at the end of the tunnel. So we started the Gangster Chronicles. I said, we need to get a real street dude. If we could find a guy that worked in law enforcement, and we got to have a square. I played the square for the first 5 episodes. But at that time, I was looking at moving to Atlanta because, you know, I'm in the music industry, and I was like, man, this is really cracking in ATL. I want to go down there. And plus, your money just stretched further. Me and my wife had actually went down there and actually was in the process of moving to a house, and I was going to rent my house out to a friend out here. So that didn't happen. I wound up staying. So in the course of that, I wound up hiring somebody to replace me as the square. The square is just the moderator on Gangster Chronicles.
Okay.
He's not really the star. He's like the guy that kind of keeps the conversation flowing because you got 2 guys in there.
Is that the reason why you call him the square? Or is it because you didn't have like a gangster background?
Yeah, because you don't have no gang affiliation.
Okay.
It had to be somebody to be neutral. Like, we didn't want nobody in there that was like, may have been a Crip or Blood or whatever, because they couldn't come from they couldn't come from a subjective place. You feel what I'm saying? They would always be about their hood or whatever. So we brought this other guy in. The whole thing was with that show, we knew that one of the hosts, Reggie Wright, was going to be had to turn himself in. He got caught up in some stuff with his marijuana dispensary or whatever, and he didn't know what kind of time he was going to get. He didn't know whether he was going to get a year or 20 years. We didn't know what them people was talking about, right? So luckily he wound up getting a year. So we had him going in jail. So I said, you know what? I didn't bring up the part about, everybody now on podcasting is going through this thing that where when someone makes it big, it's always somebody disgruntled in their crew that comes out talking shit like, oh, he dogged me out. So this is what happened with me. This is my first lesson and stuff, right? We got the show going, and it's starting to pop because, and I'm not going to say it's because of my genius necessarily, but Vlad has started speaking on the show a whole lot. And at that time, the guy James was, I think, second highest, still may be the second most watched interview ever on his podcast. He was like at something like 15 million views or something like that, right?
Who was that?
James McDonald. That's one of the co-hosts of Gangster Chronicles. Then you had Reggie on there. Reggie was a real controversial guy. Reggie ain't got no filter. He kind of just says whatever comes to fuck to Reggie's mind, and he's gonna say it, right?
Yeah.
So you already had that that car crash effect to where people is turning around, you don't know what they gonna say next. And so we got this other guy whose name I won't mention this on there, right? The second month he was there, he tried to convince James and the other co-host to come with him and this other guy across the street somewhere. So they told me about it. Again, I don't deal in emotion. I deal in business. Me knowing that Reggie was about to go to jail, and me knowing that there's no way James could do this by himself, now I don't have the time to do the show. I couldn't just kick this dude off the show. So I told him, hey man, I'm hip to what you got going on. Don't be trying to impede on my show. You know what I mean? And I just took a totally professional approach to it. I said, I was gonna get attorneys involved and everything else, but them dudes wasn't leaving, right? So he stayed there, and he just kind of just became more and more of a headache. It was always things like, and at that time, the first 15, 20 episodes of Gangster Chronicles ain't on film because it was a strictly audio thing. But we had a fan base of people start saying, you guys should start recording the show. And I was thinking, like, where the hell do I find a camera person that? That wasn't my world. And I didn't get into it for that. So I had this guy that had kept inboxing me, and I didn't know he was inboxing me. You know how Instagram got it set up.
They have the different hidden boxes, and you got to open.
Yeah, because if somebody not following you, you can have somebody trying to give you $1 million and they can't get to you. So I finally looked at it and I said, you know what, this guy has some pretty good stuff. I called him. I wanted to make sure he wasn't weird though. Because dealing with the internet, you don't know, you invite somebody to your studio, they might come up there and try to murder your ass or something, so I met him, he wound up being a cool dude, so he wound up being our guy. Actually wound up becoming an employee of Digital Soapbox, so it kind of pissed me off when this other guy would be calling him and telling him, hey, I want you to edit this like this. And I had to tell him, like, dude, don't contradict my stuff with my employee. This guy works with me. He's not your employee. You are just a work for hire yourself, so I don't even know why you're going through all that. You're not the producer of the show. So, again, I kept it professional. This dude just kept a bunch of stuff going. He started being late all the time. This is when Reggie went to jail and it's starting to piss James off too, right? So COVID comes up. COVID comes around. The whole world is in a panic. I'm pretty sure you all remember that.
I remember it. I saw all my companies die really fast.
Yeah, so I'm scared to death because I got asthma, and I don't know, man. There's some shit in the air. We might fuck around and go outside and pass out. We don't know what's going on. I remember I dropped something on the ground at the grocery store, and I wouldn't even pick it up because I said, man, it's contaminated, right? So.
Do you remember that era? It was like 2 years of straight nightmare.
It was bullshit. And it's almost like you're on house arrest. You don't want to go nowhere. You're scared to death. And your kids don't give a fuck. That's what makes it even more scary because they refusing to wear masks and all that shit. Well, it's not going to matter, and I'm looking at my daughter like, if you don't put that damn mask on, you're going to have to sleep in the garage. So we just all scared, right? So
I'm sorry. That is the funniest thing I heard all week.
So at that point, we got an interview with Warren G coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Warren G is my guy. So I text him. I say, hey, this is the Zoom link. We have an interview with Warren G. He just don't respond back. You know me, I can give a flying.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm just tired of this dude. I'm over. He don't respond back. But James is kind of panicking because he's like, I can't do this show by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, dude, chill out. I got you. He calls the dude like 100 times. Dude don't respond. I'm like, dude, stop calling him. If he want to be here, he'll be here. If he don't, let him go on about his business. So that Warren G episode winds up turning into 2 episodes, 3 episodes. We wound up doing all the episodes, just me and him after that, right?
Okay.
And I never addressed the elephant in the room of him being gone. And I'm thinking, Rex, you could be back home in a year. As soon as they come back, it's cracking. And by this time, James is getting a lot more seasoned at what he's doing. He actually ran a few episodes by himself, and they turned out really well. So at this point, we just keep on moving, right? Then people start calling us. I started getting all kind of different calls from people's research department. Like Spotify hit us up and said, hey, what's going on with this show, Wumpty-Wump? Can you confirm your analytics? Because contrary to what people know, these companies have ways of finding out what your numbers are. It's just a best case, though. They don't know 100% for sure. So they'll ask you to see your analytics in sport. Hey, can you send us your analytics? Sure. So they offered us some, but it wasn't really hitting on what I was interested in because I knew for 100% I always wanted to own my own content. Unless you give me a bag of money, no, this is still mine.
Yeah.
And, you know, what you got is yours and this is still mine. But unless you're giving me a couple $1 million, why would I just give you my intellectual property?
Yeah.
So we get these people calling, they got a company, Benchtown, that hits us. Again, it was another deal that was cool. All these companies are cool, but it was just not nothing to my liking. But I got to explain to James because he wondered why we ain't taking this money from these people. And I'm like, dude, it's not a good deal. You could wind up being mad at me in a year or so if we do take this deal, right? So then one day, I'm going into Kaiser, right? And you know, this is still a pandemic. Right? We masked up, we outside. My phone rings a couple of times from this weird number. And I ignored the first time, because you know how your phone says scam on there? It started doing a little scam thing, and I was ignoring the call. Then I finally answered, like kind of mad, like, hello? Peace, King? I'm like, who is this? It's Charlemagne. I hang up, boop. Like, you know, like how the hell you get the Charlemagne calling me? You know what I mean? So I didn't place a mind that him and Glasses was friends. Like Glasses has known Charlemagne since he was just coming into business, going on those little small promo tours. He knew Charlemagne before Charlemagne was Charlemagne.
You didn't think it was Charlemagne?
Yeah, I didn't think it was him. So I finally answered. He was like, hey, man, you know, I'm starting this network. If I got your number from Glasses and I really like y'all show. And so I was like, damn, this is dope. That's fucking Charlemagne calling the motherfucker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm kind of feeling myself. I'm like, man, there's people calling me. I'm answering. I got to call you back. I'm on the phone with Charlemagne. Just let them know. You know what I mean? So we kicking it, right? We figuring out what we go do. And I don't even tell James yet, because I don't tell him nothing unless it's going down, because then you got somebody bugging the hell out of you.
What's the update?
You know, what's going on with this? What's going on with this, right?
Did he call you back?
So we get that, then we set up a series of calls, right? Then me and Charlemagne talking one day, and he asked me, well, how much money y'all want? And I'm like, damn. Let me get back to you, bro, on that. Let me figure, let me figure out. So then we get a call on the phone, and I just like to vibe everybody up there. See, Dolly and them wasn't there yet.
Okay.
Dolly hadn't came on board yet. She wasn't there yet. And then I call them the Wonder Women.
The Wonder Women. I mean, them women are, he is so blessed with them women.
The Wonder Women, you know, Dolly, Haku, and all them, Chanel, they wasn't there yet. But I just felt like the genuineness of the whole network. It wasn't even so much about the money. It was about somebody that's going to stand up on the table for you. Yeah. When somebody possibly talking about releasing you or something like that, they the type of people that's going to stand up on the table for you, you know? So I felt that was important. So we wound up doing a deal with them, and we had to be real quiet about it. And the hardest thing for me was keeping James kind of like, because he don't know how corporations work. When he did the deal with me, I was able to get the paperwork done. Even with us now, it's slow as hell because we got attorneys and everything involved now. So I hit my attorney, and I want to get a deal, sometimes I'm at that, like, dude, I want to ask you for the, because it ain't a boilerplate. It's not just like a template on the deal. You got to actually draw that up from word one, right? So we waiting on the paperwork, and James like, man, is these people bullshit, man? It done been 2 weeks. I said, dude, you got to chill, man.
Yeah.
Like, you got to really chill. Like, well, I ain't going to want to do this shit no more. You got to relax. Like, so we wound up getting the deal done, and I tell you, it's been one of the biggest joys I had, because you very rarely have those situations to where you like everybody you work with.
Yeah.
Like, Dolly is cool as hell. I love Dolly. I always call her El Presidente.
I've known Dolly for over 10 years, I think, and I've seen her blossom. We both worked with Nick Cannon for a long time, and so I've seen her blossom and surpass, I think, anything anybody could ever imagine. And even when we talk, like, her level of acumen, just like sometimes I'll be talking to her and she'll, it's like, I felt like for a long time it was the opposite. Like, she kind of looked up to me, and now it's switched, and for me, it's a beautiful thing. And then sometimes she'll be like, I still look up to you. I'm like, girl, please don't try to make me feel good right now.
Dolly is the bomb.
But she's the bomb, and the whole crew over there is the bomb.
Yeah, they're really good people. And so I said, you know what? If I'm going to be in a business relationship with somebody, I want it to be that way, to where we all honest to each other. And it's like, if they called me tomorrow and said, hey, we not messing with y'all show no more, it wouldn't be no beef, it wouldn't be no strife, because they just those people are good people.
Yeah.
They're not going to ever do nothing like underhanded. It's like, I don't even think that way with them. I don't even have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Because first of all, it's a mega corporation. You don't get no bigger than iHeartMedia.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that Black Effect is its own separate entity.
Yeah.
So when people ask me, I say, yeah, they go through iHeart, but I'm signed to Black Effect. I'm signed, this is what we signed.
I will say this, though. When we were at the iHeart, I think iHeart had that event. iHeart's people were also pretty nice.
Yeah, they're
and they
on
treat the Black Effect really great. So I just think the thing about the Black Effect, which, by the way, I remember that transition where, like, I heard that Charlamagne wanted Eating While Broke, which I was like, Jesus, you're like, oh my gosh, what a miracle. But I remember that period where, like, from Charlamagne saying he wants Eating While Broke to the period where the paperwork actually came, it was like, I remember that period of, like, waiting, and I don't know what to expect. It's like waiting on the baby
almost, because you like waiting, and it's like,
and you don't want to be eager either. You can't call and be like, hey, you just got to be chill. You got to be like, okay.
Yeah, because that's how it was, because you got to remember, the time we waiting on him, there's other people still calling. So I have the pressure, like, even now, when you waiting on those renewals, and that's why they tell Dolly, like, Dolly, I kind of need to know, because there's people calling these people with a lot of money, and I'm trying to keep them, you feel what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, where they at? I need to know what we doing, you know what I mean? Yeah. And she may say, oh, Norm, we found, I thought we was, I need to know on paper, kind of, because it still is a business at the end of the day.
It is, and I know we're about to go through renewals, so I'm like sweating bullets, and the girls there are so nice. They're just like, Coline, and I'm like, well, I kind of need to know too, what the next step is, especially when you have interview shows, because you have to tape so many in advance just to make sure.
And that's the big thing. And we're going down, I can't say too much about it, but we're going through a massive transition on the Gangster Chronicles, to where we are getting more focused on crime, but not just dealing with the LA stuff. We're dealing more with the vice lords, what the vice lords had going on, Larry Hoover's case, even some of the like the black prison gangs, like the Black Guerrilla Family and the Aryan Nation, the Aryan Brotherhood. We're going to go do a really journalistic deep dive into these people, these organizations, right? So it's like, we need to know what's going on. And that's the part of the business. But with Digital Soapbox, what wound up happening is we have so many great people from Yuck Mouth, from the Bay Area, from the group The Loonies. Crazy Bone don't walk through our doors before. Matt Hoffa, he was with us at first. Even though, and I appreciate Matt Hoffa, that was one of those situations to where it never was no beef or nothing like that. He just didn't know enough about the business to his comfort, and he kind of told me, big bro, let me go and do my thing for a minute so I can figure this out. And it was cool. I don't hold people to paperwork. It was just, it was cool. I didn't have no bunch of money out there with him. So it was like, you know what, man, we shook hands and he went on about his business, and you see he's flourishing now. We got some great people on the network. And we went from this transition sort of like, you know, I told you we had the camera guy come in. That one camera guy turns into 2 guys that you down with. Then next thing you know, you got 3 guys. Then you got 4 guys. Now you got a building that you're dealing with. And it kind of turned to a media company because we start putting different stuff together, different types of content together, to where now we're launching our own TV network.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, rap television, we're kind of bringing back the old BET basement flavor to where we playing just nothing but hip-hop music videos, but we're also showing content, urban content, the best urban content, in which we want to bring, you know,
Eating while broke.
like
Hopefully
this, you know,
we'll be joining you.
You know, and that's the thing, you know, because streaming has just went like this. It went from just being about, I remember when I first got Roku, I was in Best Buy one day and I saw this stick and I was just talking about my cable bill. I was like, cable, $300 a month, we paying for some shit. They don't even show nothing on there. So I got that Roku stick. Ever since then, I've been off of cable, man.
Yeah, yeah. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming to our show. What advice would you give to anybody that's striving to be in not just the music business or the publishing business, but the podcast business, coming from eating while broke?
The first thing I would say is to manage your expectations. I think people in general hear so much about these deals that are often inflated. And, you know, that's no problem. I hope these brothers out here making as much money as they can, but a lot of them are overinflated. You know, they hear about people getting $5, $10 million, $50 million. Like, Joe Rogan also had astronomical numbers to back it up. I think this dude was doing something like $1 million an episode on YouTube, same with his podcast. So he's deserving of that type of money. But Joe has also been doing this since the beginning of podcasts. It took a while. I would tell people just to persevere and don't think about the money, just to keep their stuff going.
Because to keep consistency.
Consistency. Be consistent with what you're doing. It don't matter if you ain't making a dime at it. Don't get into it for money, because that's the same thing with music. Any artist that ever approaches me like, I'm trying to get a bag, I'm like, I ain't the one for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyone that tells me they're passionate about their music and want to get better at their craft, I'm with that, because the more proficient you become at something, money is going to come eventually.
Yeah.
I don't care if you a dude that just paint pictures of cartoons in your room all day. Eventually, them cartoons gonna be so dope where people gonna be offering you money for them cartoons.
Yeah, yep.
So focus on being great. Don't focus on getting to the bag, as y'all young people would say. Focus on being great at what it is you do and perfecting your craft.
Enjoying it.
And enjoying it.
For the right reasons.
Yeah, because I don't care how much money. You know, like I said, I think with that publishing company, I was making $300,000 a year on a salary, man, when they just had money, but I was miserable.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't happy doing it no more. So I don't care how much money you got. Money ain't gonna make you happy.
No, and it's the forever ending chase. Like I'll see people, and there'll be a person living on $40,000, and there's another person living on $200,000. And at the end of the day, it's like the more money you make, the more overhead you end up accumulating.
Yeah, it's all relative.
It just never stops. So just finding what kind of provides you peace and not being a slave to the system.
And that's it. And remember this, and this is for my brothers out there. Gorillas only belong in the jungle. They don't belong in the boardroom. You're going to have disagreements sometimes. You can't take stuff personal. So I would tell people, think more with their brain and not with emotions. Okay. Everything is not a personal attack. So I see a lot of people play themselves like that, like they may be having a problem with the label. And think that the label is all the time trying to cheat you. Sometimes it's just what it is. You know, you want to get an understanding with them, but everything ain't about cussing people out. You always want to maintain your professionalism.
Yeah. Yeah. I think as a woman, that is probably going to be harder advice to take. But,
well, y'all go through a lot more too.
Yeah.
Y'all go through a lot more too. It's a difference. You know, I'm a 6'4" big black dude, so people.
I was guessing your height. I said he's 6'5", but I was close.
You know, people are going to handle me a certain way versus you. They may feel like they can handle you in a certain way. Yeah. And I do know this personally, that some of the strongest people I know are women. Like my mom was a strong woman, and I see it sometimes, and I always laugh because when I'm dealing with some of our female hosts, they always professional, but they'll let you know, hey, I'm here and I'm strong and I'm willing to fight for what's mine. And I just be laughing. I say, I got you, sister. You ain't gonna have no problems out of me. But they will let you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm so thankful that you took the time to come on my show.
Anytime.
It took a couple months to get it together, and you blessed me with one of my favorite dishes on the show. which is very hard to say. I think I have like 3 favorites on the show. This is in my top 3.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to send Prez a copy of this.
You know, and you guys can get this recipe in the Eating While Broke cookbook when it does come out. So you can make it at home. And it took us about less than 15 minutes.
Yeah, less than that.
Less than 15 minutes, and we had the best nachos for a couple bucks. Literally, probably max $20 total, and that's because we had turkey meat.
Or you could eat nachos.
Yeah, or you could just eat nachos without the meat, and it could really be pennies on the dollar. And I definitely would advise the Velveeta cheese over the nacho cheese with the carnation
milk. It hit
milk.
A little different.
It hits way different. Thank you again for coming. And if you guys want to check out Gangster Chronicles, you can check it out anywhere, wherever you get your podcasts. We are both on the Black Effect, so you can also check out that network also. Peace out.
Peace.
Peace.